It is such a thrill to have the voice of the Golden State Warriors, Tim Roye, with me. He's going to talk about his background, what he expects for the Warriors with the remaining 20 some odd games in the playoffs to come. Exciting show, Dub Nation. Tim Roye, are you ready, sir?
I am ready, Cyrus. How are you doing?
Let's do it. Great. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can follow Tim Roye on Twitter at WarriorsVox. He is Mr. Elevation Sensation himself. Tim, how are you doing this morning, sir?
I'm doing great. It's we're taping this on the morning where we're getting back in the swing of things, and we say it every year, but sometimes it doesn't mean it. But this year, it's truly a sprint to the finish. There's only 23 games left of the season, and so it's there's a lot of work for all the teams to get ready for the postseason between now and the middle of April.
Oh, yeah, and we'll get into that in a second. What I want to start with first is, in my opinion, you are incredibly underrated just in the sense that people can only hear you if they're streaming or if they're listening on the radio in their cars. Um, but again, like when it comes to the actual highlights that people watch, that's your voice. You've been doing this for I've lost count of how many years you've been doing this. Can you tell the Tim Roye story in terms of how you got to this incredible position you are as the official Golden State Warriors broadcasters? Let's go back to college. Go from college to where you are now. How'd you get to this incredible position?
Well, it started because I was I went to a small school and
What school?
Utica College in Utica, New
Wow.
York,
Okay.
and
Nice.
and the reason I went there is because I went on visits to Boston University and Syracuse, two big communication schools, because I knew what I wanted to do. I've wanted to do this since I was 8 years old.
Right.
And in high school, there's that moment where you realize, oh, I'm not going to play in the NBA, that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
and so that dream went by the boards pretty quickly. So, um, the guy at Syracuse told me that, hey, there's a school on your way back to New England. I grew up in New England. He goes, there's a school that they just opened a refurbished radio station. It's a smaller school, might be a better fit for you than here, because I went to a really small all guys Catholic high school. So,
Wow.
there was more people in the freshman English class at Syracuse than there was in my high school. So, so, so I went to this place and they had a cool little radio station, and I was on the air my first weekend there. And I was the idiot who was getting up at 8 o'clock on Sunday mornings to go. They were trying to form a Division III hockey team, so it was a club team at the time, and so I would go broadcast their games in this incredibly cold rink. We literally put parkas over the headsets to call the games, and so the the regular station in town that broadcast the minor league hockey team, the guy who took over the play-by-play was also program director, and he didn't want to travel to all the games because he would be then trying to program the radio station from Erie, Pennsylvania, and so they were looking for a backup play-by-play guy. So I walked in
Mhm.
this horrible looking suit and had a reel-to-reel tape, and they liked it, and I got the job. And so at the age of 19, I was working professionally, and I've been working ever since. And so the station I started at with WIBX in Utica, New York, it was a perfect lab for a sportscaster. I did everything from news to sales to, I took tower readings. You had to take tower readings back then.
Yes. I
Um,
remember that. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
passed my FCC broadcast endorsed test to be able to do that at night, and because I was the only one there. You'd be doing a talk show, no producer, right? You're just taking cold
Right.
calls, right? Yes, ma'am, it's 32 degrees outside. Thanks for calling. That kind of thing. And so you had to take care of the tower, take care of the automated FM station, and so I did all that, and I did play-by-play. I did a talk show. I did play-by-play in baseball, hockey. We had a golf tournament I used to do play-by-play on.
Wow.
Minor league basketball, continental basketball, Division III, Division I, all that stuff. I did everything at that station. And in fact, but it's too bad the station doesn't do sports like that anymore. But Okay, so I got there after a guy named Lee Hamilton was there. Lee Hamilton
Lee
was a
Hacksaw Hamilton.
hacksaw Hamilton. He started at
Yes.
WIBX. He's one of my mentors, and so
Wow.
he would come back in the summer to visit relatives and just go through reams of copy, just as it came off the teletype, right? The old teletypes that used to, the teletype was like a big, big, noisy typewriter that's how you got the news. There was no internet then. You would just, and if it rang bells, the more bells, the bigger the story. So when it started
Hmm.
ringing bells, everybody would run over and see what's going on. But so he was there before me, and then before him, there was a guy who used to do the Baltimore Orioles for years. I think his name was Thompson,
Okay.
and then I hired Bob Papa, who lasted only a month or so because he didn't like upstate New York. He was a New York City kid, and he's the voice of the New York Giants right now. And then I hired Jim Jackson out of Syracuse, who
Wow.
is the TV voice of the Philadelphia Flyers. And there have been a couple of other guys after him, and we've all come from that same little station in upstate New York. It's
Wow.
really had an incredible track record. So I went from there. Got we got sold. The people that bought us were trying to develop stations down south. They sent me to Birmingham, Alabama. Was sports director there for 2 years. Um, Worked with Gene Bartow on the UAB basketball broadcasts, and did that. But then uh, they were going under. They kept coming into our newsroom and saying, "Oh, just a little mix-up. Nashville has our checks. We have their checks. It'll take a couple of days to sort it out." And after they do that a couple of times, you realize, "Oh, this is not an administrative error. They're just trying to get enough money in the bank to pay us, right?"
Oh, incredible. And
So
when you said Bob Papa, is that part of the Papa family? Like, is that Greg Papa's
no, I
brother?
don't. I don't think he. No, he's not related. He's not
Okay.
from Buffalo. He's from. They might be. They may be distant cousins. I don't know.
Okay.
But no. But Greg is a Buffalo guy. The Bob is from the New York City area. But
Gotcha.
um, so then I I kept in touch with Lee Hamilton, and I called him, and he said, "Look, I just took the Charger job. They're going to need a talk show, and they want to do it with two guys. Let me see what I can do." And so he got me an on-air audition. I went out and worked with Greg Schulte, who's the longtime voice of the Diamondbacks now,
Yeah.
and got the job. So and then did that for 2 years. And again, KTAR radio in Phoenix is just like IBX. We had everything. We had all the Sun Devil stuff, baseball, football, basketball. The Cardinals had just come to town. We had the Cardinals. I did minor league baseball on the side with the Phoenix Firebirds in the summer. And, got to see guys like Matt Williams come up, with the Giants, AAA and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
So, the, and we were doing all of this stuff. Um, and then I went on vacation. We had, our general manager left. They brought in a general manager who had used to be there, and he's a real energetic guy. And he would come into our office one day, goes, "A great show last night." And then 3 days later, goes, "I don't know about that show last night." That kind of thing. You know,
It's
he was,
cheers to
oh
PD for you. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
That's your PD for you.
So
Yeah.
so I went on vacation. I went on vacation of all places to the Bay Area. I figured, okay, I'm not going back east. I had to use the vacation before the end of the summer because they were on me. I had about 4 weeks. So I took a week and a half, 2 weeks, and went to the Bay Area. I have a brother who never left California. He's up in Chico, and so saw him and hung out with him for a few days, and then uh, on my back then, this was 1989, and answering machines were just, the last few years, they were big time. They're okay. I got
Right.
an answering machine now. So I called my answering machine in Phoenix, and the program directors had a message on there. He said, "Look, something's happened. You got to call me right away. Call me whenever you get this, night or day." I thought somebody might have died. And then I called
Ooh.
him, and I found out it was me. I got fired on vacation. And
Oh,
so,
nice.
yeah.
What
So
the
the guy had brought
God?
in a new talk show guy who was kind of like, bells and whistles and, goofy stuff. And that really wasn't my cup of tea. And he leaked it to the Arizona Republic. And by the time,
Oh.
so it was already public domain. I had no idea. There was no internet, right? There was no, so, there's no texting back then either. So nobody,
Right.
nobody could get a hold of me. Cell phones were just being invented. So, uh, He said they were
Amazing.
really nice though. Once it happened, after they fired me, they got really nice to me. They said, Stay an extra week and we'll pay the difference." And I said, "Okay." So I did that, and then came back in, and the GM called me in. I thought, "What does he want to see me? He just fired me. What's he want?" So I go in there, and he
Right.
was like, "Bring your resume." Just hand the resume to his assistant. Says, "Print up as many resumes as he needs." Print him up some stationery. He said, "You do all your tape work here, make all your long distance phone calls here, and when you get an interview, you let me know. I'll call the guy and I'll tell him what's happened." He felt bad about it. He felt bad about the whole thing. So
Well, that's
so
nice at
anyway,
least. Yeah. Yeah.
so then I take a tape over uh a beer. I go to upstate New York for a few days to help out a friend with a broadcasting project. I was one of his
Okay.
anchors for a few days, and so over a couple of beers with those guys, they convinced me to try for this job in Sacramento. I didn't know anything about Sacramento, and I thought, Sacramento. Do I want to go from Phoenix to Sacramento? That kind of thing. And so they convinced me to go for the job. So I put together a tape of which I had a play-by-play portion of me doing a UAB game against South Alabama, and I put the tape and sent it to Sacramento. Put together a whole bunch of stuff, and went back to Phoenix. And when I walked into my apartment in Phoenix, I hit that old answering machine again,
Uh
and
huh.
there was the guy in Sacramento, Rick Etchison, who said, "How soon can you get here? I want to talk to you about this job." And
Oh.
so they flew me up the next day. I go in his office. There's a box in his corner of his office, and it's filled with tapes. And he goes, "See that?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Those are all the people I had to listen to, right?" He goes, "And then I got
Oh,
your tape." He goes, "And you're not leaving until you sign a contract." So, and that's
amazing.
how.
Tim, can I stop you there for 1 second just
Yeah.
so I can pay some bills real quick? This is an incredible story.
Okay.
I'm captivated. Let me just real quick pay some bills here. First of all, I got to show some love to Prize Picks. They're a longtime sponsor of Locked On NBA. NBA fans, if you're looking for a daily fantasy option for the NBA, then you need to try the award-winning app Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. I love this. We know you will too. It's easy to use. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over under on their projections. You can win up to 10 times on any entry. It's just you versus the projected numbers. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. Prize Picks is safe and offers fast withdrawals. Use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. For a limited time, Prize Picks is an exclusive no-brainer of an offer for all our users. Users get $50 for free if a player in your first Prize Picks entry scores a single point, but you must use the code NBA. That's right. This is an exclusive offer available to Locked On fans. Sign up today and use the code NBA for $50 free if a player in your first Prize Picks entry scores a single point. And we'll be back with Tim Roye to finish that incredible story here on Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast, nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can follow Tim Roye on Twitter at WarriorsVox. He's the official voice of the Golden State Warriors, telling an incredible story where we left off. You were in an office, I believe, in Phoenix, about to be offered a job for the Sacramento Gold Miners. Is that the team, or am I jumping
Well,
ahead? I'm sorry.
you jumping a little ahead. I had
Oh,
flown
sorry,
to
sorry, sorry.
Sacramento. Yeah, and I'm in the office at KFBK Radio, and they offered me the job, and so that job also entailed helping out with the Kings broadcast, and that's how I got in
Oh,
the NBA. And
wow.
so I did pre, half, and post, and then when Gary Gerald went and did his auto racing stuff for ABC, I did play by play. So that's 1989-90 was the first year I did an NBA game play by play. And the funny thing about the end of the story is that when I got fired in Phoenix, it was in like early August, and or it might have been late July, I can't remember, but my contract, the last check was at the end of August from KTR Radio, and I started Labor Day in Sacramento. So I got fired and didn't miss a check. It was awesome. It was great. So uh, so
That is
It
awesome. Yeah.
all, and here's here's the other thing I tell kids sometimes. I tell them, so you don't know how your career's going to go. I said I got
Yes.
fired and ended up getting an NBA job. And so,
Incredible.
yeah, and so I was with the Kings from '89 to '95, and then in the summer of '95, late summer, the Warriors made a change, and they gave me a call, and there I was. I signed with the Warriors in
Oh my
'95.
God. Oh my God, that's an incredible story, Tim. And when I'm listening to that, first of all, our great friend Larry Kruger always talks about the fact that you two connected back when you were doing the Sacramento gig,
That's right.
and he always raves about you, man. We love you. And what's really fascinating, there's a lot of fascinating aspects of that story. What
By the way,
sticks out to me, yeah,
before you leave the Larry Kruger part,
yeah.
uh, it- really underrated road league is the Canadian Football League. Let me tell you, there's some cool cities in Canada. I got to go to Edmonton and Calgary. I got to see the Northern Lights. I got to go to
Oh,
Vancouver 2 or 3 times a year. Got to go to
oh.
Toronto. I mean, it's a very underrated road league. But again, I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you digress, but rightfully so. I've been to Toronto. I've been to Vancouver numerous times. Those are fantastic places, and I
Yeah.
recommend them as well. I've never been that far north where you can see the Northern Lights. That sounds amazing. But like the youngsters today, young adults who are pursuing broadcasting today have no idea of the trials and tribulations people used to have to go through, because now all you have to do is just turn on your computer and start recording. I'm almost bitter sometimes when I see people launch these podcasts. I'm like, do you have any idea what people had to go through to get a broadcasting job? And all you got to do is turn on a computer, and if you happen to be trending, you're set. It's incredible. But that's an amazing story. And I was actually Lee Hacksaw Hamilton's producer at the Mighty 1090 in San Diego for a couple years.
I did not know that.
Um,
Oh, okay.
Fascinating character. Yeah.
Put your
So
put
you
your
and I, we
put your
yeah,
topics on the table. All right, come on, let's go.
exactly. And he was the voice of the Chargers for. I have no idea what he's doing now. I hope he's okay and he's doing well. But yeah, again, that's a great story, Tim. I that's fantastic. And for anyone listening, again, if you're interested in broadcasting, that's how it works. You just have to keep grinding. You have to keep going. You have to say yes to everything. And I tell my college students this all the time. Just put your head down, work hard, and if you're talented, good things will happen. And that same with you. You're one of the greats in this industry, and I'm so happy you've reached this position and you're still doing it. You're going strong. What do you think about the Warriors, man? This is a very peculiar year. They had that incredible start. It's almost like the first third of the season, they were easily the best team in the NBA. They had the best records. Steph was easily the favorite for MVP. And then we've gone through this little kind of slog of part of a season where we're dealing with injuries. I know Clay came back, but the record's not quite the same. Now we got the part that really counts, in my opinion. That's the push for the postseason, and then the real season starts. Talk to Dob Nation, man. Are you confident? How are you feeling about this Warriors team as we enter the postseason?
I feel really good about the team, but obviously, health is a big deal. I think they have to get, Draymond Green back at some point and get him going.
Yeah.
And he's, the sum of all the parts of the Warriors has always been, the thing that makes them so lethal is that everybody, has something that they bring to the table, and it makes it like a wave crashing over the opposition, so to speak. So, but yeah, I feel really good. I think they have the right depth. I think they have a lot of very interesting pieces that Steve Kerr can mix and match with, say, in a playoff
Hmm.
series. And I think they've got some young legs. I can't wait to see what James Wiseman can add, and obviously they need his size. And so I think he can be a big factor in all of this. And I think Jonathan Kuminga, brings to the
Oh,
table an athleticism that this club doesn't have and anywhere else. And so, as he continues to polish, his game, I think, that again, just another guy that maybe can change. He's got to miss an assignment now and then because he's a rookie, but he can also help change a game with his athleticism and his bounce. So
correct.
I feel pretty good about it. I think mentally they kind of got tired there. I think it's really
Yeah.
hard for this team to play at a high level without Draymond for that long, and I think it kind of caught up to him. I think it took a lot of energy on their part.
Absolutely, and I'll let you go with this. You're an incredibly busy man. I could keep you here all day, but
No
that would
worries.
be cruel
No
on my
worries.
part. I do want to let Dub Nation know, especially the newer members, that this Warriors team, when you took over that job in 1995, there was a good 10 years, 15 years, maybe almost 20 years of just really putting your head down and grinding, man. And I say that just in the sense that this was one of the worst franchises in the NBA, at least from wins and losses. Tell us how it feels to go from being a team associated with the LA Clippers, and you understand this in the 90s, especially in the 2000s, to a franchise that is now the envy of the world. And you look at the future: Wiseman, Kaminga, Moody, Jordan Poole, and other youngsters as well. I mean, there is no end in sight for Warrior success. How does it feel to you to go from being someone who was the broadcaster of a team where you had to be professional, and night in, night out, you had to just call this game, even though the product was not great? And I hope you don't take any disrespect from me saying that, to being, again, this world-class organization, a golden dynasty. How does that feel, man? I mean, just to transition from one to the other.
Well, the funny thing is that I tell people this, and it's absolutely true, that my overall record, Kings and Warriors, is still below 500. So, and for a long
Oh my God.
for a long time, Ted Davis, Ralph Lawler, and I had this really unholy trinity where we would compare our overall records and say, "Up, got you beat," that kind of thing. So Ralph Lawler was the longtime voice of the Clippers. Ted Davis, who was with the Bucks last year and got kind of moved aside there at the end of last year, but he was with those Dallas teams that won like 12 games and 15
Oh.
games. So he was with those teams, and so yeah, I mean, I went from 1989 through 2006 as a broadcaster in the NBA,
Oh.
and I had not seen the playoffs. I had not had a team,
Oh.
not had worked for a team that had been above 500. And for young Warrior fans, listen to this: we went 5 years in a row where it was like 19 wins, 17 wins, 21 wins, 19 wins, 21 wins, something like that in
Yeah.
5 consecutive years. And so, we used to show up and people would ask us, where's Golden State? Is that in Colorado? They wouldn't even know where we were. And every newspaper headline back then would say, woeful Warriors in town
Yep.
to meet,
Yep.
Denver, to meet,
Yep.
Seattle. And, we started one game with two guys on 10-day contracts. I mean, it was just at times a mess. But you get through it. It's still the NBA. And every
Yep.
night there's a different story to tell. And, you still had some great moments. I got, Antoine Jameson back-to-back 50-point games in
True.
what was otherwise a lost season. But
Yes.
so there's that. I mean, it's still the NBA. It's still a great job. It's always been a great job, and it never feels like work to me. You can get tired doing this job, and I do get tired. My energy level maybe isn't what it was 30 years ago, but whose is? And so
Yep.
you know so but it's still, it never feels like work. It always feels like fun, and I'm just honored and blessed to do this, and especially with a fan base the way we have, because even
Uh-huh.
back in the dark days, it still was a great fan base. They don't need the scoreboard to tell them when it's a big possession. They
Yep.
don't need the scoreboard to tell them that, hey, it's time to D up. And I
Yep.
love that about our fan base. It's the absolute best. Every announcer that comes to the Bay Area says the same thing. So I love doing games here. The crowd's always into it. It's great. And so, I've had that. I've been very fortunate to be able to do that.
Absolutely. Even through those dark days, man, that arena was selling out. Those fans know this team. Those two 50-point Antoine Jameson games, one against Kobe, I believe, too. I remember all
Yep.
that. And look, Tim, when I was, I worked at KNBR for nearly 10 years. I was your in-studio producer for a lot of those Warriors games. You are a consummate professional. It was always such a pleasure working with you. Attitudes are contagious, in my opinion, and people can hear that with your broadcast. And I can't thank you enough for taking some time to join me. And again, you can listen to Tim Roye broadcasting every Golden State Warriors game as they make the push for the postseason. Tim, best of luck for the rest of the season, man. Thank you so much. I hope to have you on at some point again in the near future, because I'm your fan, man. I'm a huge fan, and I'm sure most of Dub Nation is as well. And this door is always open for you. And thanks, brother. Just thank you. I don't know what to say.
Hey, it was fun. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the platform, and best of luck with the Locked On Warriors podcast. And a reminder, we're taping this as the season kicks off yet again. And on the 27th, we have that Sunday game, but it's a weird start time. It's 4:30, so make sure people know that it's 4:30 start time on the 27th of February when the Warriors take on Dallas. So
That is odd, but thank you for the heads up on that. Yeah,
yes,
Tim, safe travels, and thank you again, sir. And hope to talk to you soon. Thanks, Tim.
yes, sir. Yep.
You're a pro. And that is Tim Roye, the voice of the Golden State Warriors. You can follow him on Twitter at WarriorsVox. Such a pleasure, Mr. Elevation Sensation himself. It never felt like work when Tim was was calling games, because I'm in the studio watching a Warriors game, logging some stuff, doing whatever a producer does, and you're hearing the best in the business making the call. It never felt like work to me, man. And professionally behind the scenes, Tim Roye is as much of a class act as you're ever gonna find anywhere. And that story he shared for the first 15 minutes of this program about how he got to where he is, I hope any young aspiring broadcasters take note from that, because there's a lot of lessons there. You just have to continue going on and on. I tell my students, I'm a journalism professor, be eager, be likable in your employment position. That is important. Be someone that people want to have around, right? And then work hard, say yes to everything, and who knows, maybe you could be as successful as Tim Roy someday. Let's talk about a longtime sponsor of Locked On Warriors, and that's BetOnline. Football might be over for this season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, betonline.net is the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds, right to the Olympic coverage and information. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. Bet Online, where the game starts.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available on every podcast platform you can find out there. So we continue on with All-Star vacation. The All-Star break continues on. The season's just around the corner. Dieter's hopefully going to join me tomorrow. And we're gearing up because starting next week, the season's back in full steam and the push for the playoffs officially begins. And Dub Nation, this is where the Warriors are going to start ramping it up. All your concerns the last few months, look, some of them are still very warranted just because Draymond Green is still out. The great news is my sources have told me that Draymond has been telling people he's 100%. He's ready. The one issue remaining is that he needs to build up his conditioning. He needs to get back in game shape, just because a back injury is really brutal, in the sense that, unlike, let's say, James Wiseman's knee injury, for example, where you can still work out your upper body and work out your other leg and do various drills. Any upper body injury, whether it's a hand or a wrist, like Stephen Curry missed almost an entire year, he was working on his legs the whole time. You could still be running in the process. With a lower back injury like Draymond Green's, you're kaput. You're not moving. There isn't really much you can do. I think you can do drills in the pool and various swimming exercises, but they're light. They're not rigorous. They're certainly not at the tempo of an NBA basketball game. So Draymond is getting there. He's feeling great. He's not reporting any symptoms or conditions of that lower back injury. At this point, it's just a matter of getting his conditioning back, ramping that up. And there are reports out there that say 3 to 4 weeks. I heard these a few days ago. That might be accurate, just because it might take that long to get him back going in full steam. And remember, the focus of this Golden State Warriors team is the championship, the world championship, the pinnacle of all professional sports relating to basketball achievements. And that is hosting the Larry O'Brien Trophy. This Warriors team knows how to do it. Its core pieces do. And they understand that a lot of the regular season is relatively inconsequential. But what we're about to start here, as we approach the month of March in 5 days, and the dog days are going to start fading off into memory, you're going to see this Warriors team ramping it up. You're going to see Steph Curry start to go give it his all again. Because, look, players don't take nights off, all right? But there is a sense of urgency in certain games and a lack of it in others. And the Golden State Warriors in January and February, and even a lot of December, at least the veterans who have been there and know what it takes to win multiple championships, not just one, they understand when to take it easy and when to go all out. And when March comes around, and especially April, you're going to see a different product out there. And again, Draymond hopefully will come back soon. And with tomorrow's show, I do know Connor Letourneau hopefully will be joining Dieter and I. He wrote a great article in the San Francisco Chronicle that I really want to bring him on and talk about, and that's the future of this team, the longer term prognostication of who's staying, who's going. And we're going to delve into all that because the bottom line is this, Dub Nation. You could have all your debates about who they should keep and who they should waive. The Golden State Warriors are in a position where, with the exception of a player like Otto Porter Jr., who the Warriors might not be able to keep depending on who's offering them big deals. The bird rights for Otto Porter Jr. are limited because he was only offered the veteran minimum contract this year. Think of Bobby Portis with the Bucks when you think about Otto Porter Jr. And that really sucks because of all the veterans they signed this year. For the longer term picture, I think Otto Porter Jr. is the most important. I really do. He could finish games. He could be the successor to Andre Iguodala. I mean, if Otto Porter Jr. stays healthy, he's a vital cog in this dynasty machine that we have here. But outside of him, just because they can't, let's say another team comes out there and offers him $15 million a year, the Warriors can't do that. The salary cap is so complex that I don't know the math, but I think ballpark the most they could offer him for next year would be about $5 or $6 million per season. Beyond that, like if they give him another 1-year deal, then the following year they could start ramping it up. But the bigger question is, how much money is Lacob and Gruber willing to spend? Because Wiggins, you can bring him back. You have his bird rights. Kevon Looney, you could bring him back. You have his bird rights. But every penny over that luxury tax, and especially the penalty the Warriors are paying in that top tier, I think it's like a 2-for-1 tax where for every dollar they spend, they have to spend $2 in a tax to the NBA that the other owners will happily reap and reward. So the question is, are the owners willing to spend? They're in an unprecedented position where they've had this incredible 5-year dynasty. And even during these 2 years, the previous 2 years where they're kind of just regrouping and resting and taking a collective breath, they're in a position now where they can ramp it up again, but they're going to have to pay people. Jordan Poole is probably going to be expected to make a decent chunk of money. Andrew Wiggins, I mentioned ago, his contract's going to be up. Not right away, but it's going to come up soon. That discussion is going to have to be made. Kevon Looney's an unrestricted free agent. Gary Payton II, who I constantly heap praise on, unrestricted free agent. These are players you have to bring back. And the question is, what's it going to take? And the bottom line, with the exception of Otto Porter Jr., the Warriors have the legal capacity to offer these players the money they want. The question is, are they willing to do it? And that's where, again, myself and a lot of members of Dub Nation might have to just agree to disagree, because my personal belief, and it's a very strong belief, is if you own a sports franchise, especially in a big market like the San Francisco Bay Area, side note, this is a big market. Outside of New York City, this is the most affluent market in the country. And some can argue we surpass New York. I don't think that's true, but some can make that argument based on just how much money is really here. So I don't want to hear talk about, oh, they need to save money. They don't need to do anything. If they decide to save money, it's because they want to save money, not because they need to. Legally, they can keep all these players. It's just a matter of whether or not these billionaires, and I will say that time and time and again, these billionaires are willing to actually spend it. Side note, they can afford it. And Connor Letourneau, again, is going to join me soon, hopefully tomorrow. Hopefully get Dieter back. And again, starting next week, we'll be back to a full, consistent schedule. And rightfully so. I mean, we're now officially about to enter the really important part of the season as the Warriors pursue what is going to be their 4th championship in 8 years. Incredible. Thanks again to Tim Roye for coming on. Love that guy. I love both the Warriors. Actually, all 3 main broadcasters. Bob Fitzgerald and I worked together for a long time. He's a great dude as well. Kevin Dana, the voice of the Santa Cruz Warriors. He comes on here regularly. Hope to have him back on soon. The Warriors have great broadcasters, man. I'm stoked on that. So thanks again, Tim. That was phenomenal. And thanks to all of you, as always, for listening and joining the program. Thanks for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. Again, you can follow me on Twitter at DogSurfRoadshow and this program on Twitter at Locked On Dubs. Now make your second listen Locked On NBA. Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NBA every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. Thank you so much, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Later.